And welcome to Tampa 2, a Buccaneers podcast brought to you by two upstate New York Bucs fans. This is season 2, episode 2, where we're going to get into a little bit of coaching news, NFC South Talk, and our top free agencies for this offseason. I'm Sean. This is Matt. We're your hosts. And yeah, let's get into it. Start with the coaching news.
Yeah, it's a little bit of breath of fresh air. Last week we talked about the news of losing Tom Brady, him going into retirement. Now we have to fill that quarterback void. And one of the other big talking points of the offseason of last offseason was Todd Bowles and Byron Leftwich, two of the better coordinators in the NFL coming off a Super Bowl season. We're able to retain them. I definitely didn't think we were going to have both of them coming back. It's kind of looking that way now that all the head coaching vacancies have been picked up. I don't see why they would go to another team for a coordinator role. So it looks like we're going to luck out.
Yeah, that's as big as news as we could get coming off that Brady week. I know everybody loves to trash Bowles after that last play, but regardless of that one play in that game, our defense has been absolutely incredible for the last 2 years. The big part of it has been due to his play calling and just the way he kind of uses our guys and knows how to use Devin White and Levante David on blitzes. And just, I mean, people who are upset with him for one play, okay, but you know what? He's maybe the best defensive coordinator in the NFL and has shut down some of the best offenses of all time after time again. So the fact that we have him coming back is huge.
And the thing is, like you talked about the one play, and I feel like we haven't talked about it yet. Of course, like you look at it as a Bucs fan point of view, you got Tom Brady. You want to just play to, survive, right? Get to overtime, get extra life with the new overtime. Like you never know what happens. At the same time, like I don't hate bringing the pressure because if our guys get there a split second earlier, that might be one of those plays where we've seen multiple times of a deflected pass, a fluttered pass. All of a sudden, our defense makes a play in the playoffs like they did all last year. Now, of course, the play didn't go our way. It's easy to point the finger, but I agree with you. I think in the moment, heart's broken. Your gut is kind of just brutal, and the season is right there. But the more that it's kind of settled on me, I think that's why we like Todd Bowles. That's why I think we like our defense, because that's what we've done all year is brought pressure, and it's paid off for us. But at the same time, you live and die by those kind of decisions, and it bit us this year, and that's fine though.
If we're playing prevent defense and they do the same thing, then people are saying, why are we playing prevent defense or rush more? So
well, look at what Buffalo did. Buffalo,
yeah.
It was a tale of two tapes. Like the Bucs brought the pressure and they got beat in the single high over the top, and the Bills literally conceded 35 yards in chunk plays back to back. And so you could point fingers both ways, and both ways were the complete opposites. In both ways, they lost the game. So it's just, and at the same time, we talk about bringing back Todd Bowles, losing Brady, huge for our offense. We're going to be bringing back a lot of offensive pieces. Yep. Fingers crossed, hopefully, but we're going to be bringing in, there's going to be a new person at the helm, whether it's a guy who we already have in place right now in Tampa or someone we bring in. So keeping a major piece of that, with Byron at the top, yep, still there, I think it's huge.
And hopefully he's taken a lot of what Brady's kind of showed him to bring kind of that New England offense to Tampa, where the Arians kind of offense, the go deep, risk it for the biscuit kind of thing, it kind of settled down. We saw halfway through the first year with Brady. So hopefully we kind of continue that. Depending on who we have, because if we get a kind of guy like Rodgers who just likes to sling it, then fine, go ahead. But
yeah, I think that's going to be interesting too, because how much of that Arians kind of conceding the offense or stepping away from the offense was his true confidence in Leftwich and wanting him to grow within that coordinator role, or how much of it was really being like, we have Tom Brady, like I'm going to listen to what makes him comfortable, what he likes to do. So I think that's another kind of step that as we walk into this new year, this new era, I guess, of Bucs football, post Brady, it's going to be interesting to see how that dynamic is with Arians and Leftwich now that Brady's not there, because we've seen it for a couple of years now. Pre-Brady, during Brady, now we're going post Brady, post success. I'm curious to see how that relationship goes and who's really stepping in the role of signal calling and all that stuff.
Yeah, and as we're going to talk later in the show, a lot of that's going to have to do with who we actually bring back in the offensive side. I saw a graphic today somewhere of what our offense looks like without the unrestricted free agents right now, and it is kind of ugly. But before we get into that, we'll get into some NFC talk. As people get to know, the more they listen to us, our most beloved team, the Saints, have had an interesting couple weeks. First with Sean Payton is gone, which absolutely love that. I cannot stand that man. But at the same time, they bring in defensive coordinator as the head coach, who I cannot stand just as much as Payton. So that's great.
Right.
I'm sure it's going to bring a little bit of continuity to their team because I feel like he's been there as long as Payton has.
Yeah,
So,
and that Saints organization has been successful. You know, as Bucs fans, we truly know that, and that kills us even more. You know what I mean? They bring in Dennis Allen, and it feels like there's not going to be a lot of change in the culture. But at the same time, right on the heels of this news of Dennis Allen coming in as head coach, honestly, probably news that I had I don't think anyone saw coming, and it's unbelievable that the legal situation that Alvin Kamara is walking into now. I would be surprised that, I mean, I don't think he's going to play this upcoming year, but I don't know how long it is before he plays football. I know I sent you a post earlier. He's looking at maybe 5 years. I don't know if I got clickbaited and that was wrong, but that is a huge impact on that Saints organization.
So I saw like an article kind of talked about kind of like a TMZ kind of thing, and it showed the picture of the guy who was assaulted, and it was brutal. His face was bruised up, swollen, and so I guess the story is they're in the elevator at the hotel, and the guy kind of goes in there, where Kamara and his posse's kind of in there, and as he walks in, Kamara's like, "You're not coming in here," and puts his hand on this guy's chest. Guy kind of slaps Kamara's hand away, and then it was just jump the guy. So.
It is
not great for
no. I mean, as a Saints fan, I'm sure they are absolutely sick because, I mean, weirdly enough, the Saints are also in a situation of they're looking to find a quarterback just like the Bucs are. You know, Jameis Winston was there last year, but he's coming off an ACL. He's going to be an unrestricted free agent. They're dumping a lot of money into Taysom Hill. He's a great athlete. He does a lot of stuff with his legs. I don't think he's really, a franchise quarterback to be able to stand back and throw the ball when he needs to. So they have a big void that they have to fill at quarterback, and having a guy like Alvin Kamara with his ability to run the football, catch the football out of the backfield, it's got to be a security blanket that is always there, always consistent, always producing, and that is going to be no longer existent in New Orleans. And that's a breath of fresh air for a Bucs fan because I'm sick of that, like our defense chasing that guy around.
And let's not forget Mike Thomas has not played in like a year and a half now after they decided to keep him in the block in the first game of the 2020 season, and he rolls his ankle. But
it's going to be a very different Saints team. I mean, in 2 years, we've seen the Saints lose Drew Brees, Sean Payton. It's going to look like Alvin Kamara. Like you said, Michael Thomas has been non-existent really for a season and a half, 2 seasons. It's a Saints team that was at the top of the mountain for a long time. They've been running the division, and it looks like they are in a spot of despair because I know their cap situation isn't good. They're losing stars. They got trouble in New Orleans.
Yeah, I mean, talk about the rest of the division too. Like it's wide open right now. Panthers were a team that they went great this year, but they battle, and obviously once they get McCaffrey, if he can actually stay healthy for a year, they're always dangerous. Rule's a good coach. It seems like they play for him, and they have quarterback troubles too. Are they going to stick with Darnold and Cam? Probably not. I'm guessing. Probably going to bring somebody else in. And then obviously the Falcons, I mean, they've been terrible the last couple of years, but you never know with that offense. Pitt's going to be a second-year guy who obviously he's going to be better this year. And if Ridley actually plays this year, he was out almost the whole season just because.
Yeah, that's and the Falcons are another team that late in the year they made this push that I know theoretically, mathematically, they had a shot to make the playoffs. As a Bucs fan in the South, I don't think I really believe that they were really going to be a contender to make one of those wild card spots, but they caught some momentum late in the year too. And that's the thing. It's just like all these teams in our division have a lot of this talent. We just talked about Kamara. but Calvin Ridley opted out for a good portion of the year for some mental health, to step away for mental health. So his status is unknown. I think a lot of people are hoping that he comes back to play, but also there's no guarantee that if he comes back to play that he's going to want to be playing in Atlanta. So and then you brought up Christian McCaffrey's health. He's a great player, but again, this is back-to-back season now where he's missed significant time due to injuries. So the South is extremely open, and tell you what, it would have been nice to have Brady for one more year with this depleted South, but I think we're still going to be all right.
Definitely nice. But now going off that, obviously we have a lot of guys we need to sign without Brady. And just to name off some big names quickly before we get to our two top five. We have Godwin, JPP, Jensen, Sue, Gronk, Golston, Fournette, Howard, Gabbert, Jones, Sherman, Stinney, Bernard, Minter, McClendon, Wells, Davis, just Kappa, Whitehead. I mean, that is a list of guys who play some big roles on this team. Is an understatement.
Yep.
So why don't we go in? You can start first. We'll go one for one. We'll go down our list. We'll kind of discuss some of the guys, and if you want to start off with your one.
Yeah, and I think a lot of Bucs fans are gonna be in the same boat on this one. 1-1. I mean, we have to bring back Chris Godwin. His production has been unbelievable. Of course, he had the knee injury this year, which sucked. But even last year, he battled injury, and his production was through the roof. The way he works with Evans in our offense. I mean, I was just looking at some of his stats. This is a guy who missed the last 5 seasons, the last 5 games of the year with the quarterback who led the league in passing yards. And he missed the last 5 games, and he still led our team with Mike Evans and all these other great weapons by over 20 receptions and over 70 yards. And he missed the last 5 games of the year. His production was just unbelievable. I think it's a no-brainer. Whatever he wants, we got to bring him back.
Same. My one's Godwin. He's so valuable on like third downs and even like first downs when he just gets those like 7-yard screens, whatever. He breaks that. Obviously, Mike, we do the Mike sometimes, but he's not a screen guy. He's a take the top off the defense. Yeah. And I'm just obviously it's one of the best receivers in the NFL. But there's something about Godwin where he just when he's on the field on a third down, it feels like our percentage goes up by double that we're going to convert that just because he is so sure-handed, besides for a couple games in 2020. And he's just so good off the line and gets open so quick that it's like you said, such great opposite Evans. And it's just something that he's one of the best in the NFL at what he does and just being that possession guy. And he's going to get the ball and he's going to make tough catches and he's going to fight for yards. It's after a catch, he breaks so many tackles and just a guy that we need to bring back. He's a good locker room guy. And he's a staple of our team at this point.
Right. No, absolutely. So obviously we're on the same boat at the top of the list with number 1. I think a lot of Bucs fans will be in the same spot. What do you, who are you seeing at number 2?
Number 2, I'm going with Jensen. I think that he is just such a staple to our offensive line. He is a tone setter, even with some of his stupid penalties after plays and stuff. He's what you want in an offensive lineman. He's gritty. He's going to fight. He's going to lead that team at that center position. And again, we've had struggles at that center position over the last couple of years, even with like Ali, when we moved him to center, which is not his position. He's a top 5 guard in the NFL. Like we need him at guard, and having Jensen to fill that center spot has been absolutely huge and just it's like an anchor to our offensive line. And I think bringing him back should be a priority, especially if we get a quarterback who we need to protect. If we get a Trask, if he's starting, I mean, we got to give him time, make him comfortable in his first year starting.
And I completely agree. So I got Jensen at number 3 for me. And he was right there in my mind of almost filling in that 2 spot for the exact same reasons that you said. We've seen him evolve since he came in 2018, that there have been times where we're ripping our hair out with Jensen, getting some brutal penalties. But he's matured so much and molded into this guy who uses that aggression and that edge that he plays with as an advantage. He didn't get as many penalties last year. Yep. I think he's really consistent in the pass and even better in the run. And he's got that edge that I think sets the tone for that offensive line. So I couldn't agree more. He's a guy who I think we got to keep that unit together up front. They played really well the last 2 seasons. And again, we talk about bringing Byron Leftwich back, and a lot of that, this offensive frame trying to be the same as what it's been. I think starting with the guys up front who have been really, really solid is definitely key. But for me, the number 2 guy, and I think this might be a surprise to some, not all. I think you get Jordan Whitehead. This is a guy who, when he's on the field, you can't miss him because his nose is always on the football. I mean, he's a guy who who missed a good portion of the early part of the year after battling through injury, getting injured in the NFC Championship game last year. Again, but he had an unbelievable game, forcing turnovers. He misses the Super Bowl, and he's put in spots of he's just trying to get back. He's trying to get back. But as soon as he gets back to healthy, immediately he's undeniable. He's all over the field. I mean, he brings energy. At the end of the day, he missed a lot of games. He was still 4th on our team in tackles, tied for 2nd in interceptions, tied for 2nd in forced fumbles. He's a playmaker. We talk about big play Mike Edwards, but Jordan Whitehead is an energy guy that is like Devin White, just brings that lift to our defense, and I think he's such a cornerstone. I think we got to bring him back.
Yeah, we're on the exact same page because I had Whitehead at number 3. And
there we go.
Pound for pound, he is the hardest hitter in the NFL, I believe. Like he just throws his body around, and legal hits too. He just, like what he did to Aaron Jones in the playoff game, just absolutely sticks people and just brings, like I said, brings that energy to the defense that take him off the edge. He's good in covering and just makes plays all over the field and flies around. And him and Winfield back there is one of the best safety duos and could be one of the best safety duos we've seen since like the Legion of Boom.
Absolutely.
I mean, Winfield already a Pro Bowl in his 2nd year. He was actually rated higher than Whitehead has been, but Whitehead is just, he's so solid back there and just such a sure tackler. I mean, it's huge when you have secondary guys coming up and making the tackles on those quick screens and stuff that just shuts down offenses.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I guess we're done with number 3 too. 'Cause you had Jensen, I had Whitehead. So what do you have for number 4 as we move down?
So this 4-5 area is really tough because to me it's come down to 3 guys, and I think all 3 guys are arguably equally as important.
Yeah.
4 though, I'm going to go with Alex Kappa. I mean, it's a lot of the same reasons that we talk about Jensen. Now he doesn't have that. At least you don't see it, that edge and that nastiness. Yep. But at the same time, he's a part of that core. We drafted him back in 2018. He's been in Tampa his entire career, and he's just been a cornerstone. You know, he seems like a quiet guy. You don't see a lot of press conferences on him. You don't see a lot of people talking about him in the media. But he's great. I mean, he had the broken foot or broken ankle at the end of last year. In 2020, which was tough. Aaron Stinney stepped in for him, but again, Kappa comes back and he kind of fits in right where he left off, and he plays great football for us. So, and with that, I think of the 5 guys on our offensive line, if we might lose one or have to think about replacing one sooner rather than later, I think it might be Donnie. So I don't want to lose Kappa and maybe have to lose Donnie too. Maybe in the near future, and all of a sudden we're replacing 2 of those pieces before we really wanted to replace one or any of them.
Agreed. Yeah, I mean, having that depth at line that we've had these last couple of years has been absolutely huge, and Cap has been one of the guys who's filled in and been huge for us. And it's just, you can never go wrong with offensive line. Like, it's the one thing in the NFL that you can never have too much of, is having a stout offensive line. So I like that. My number 4, I went with the big guy in the middle, Sue. I think him and Vita, I think, are just such a good duo up there, just clogging the run. I think Sue, the last 2 years on our team, I think he loves playing for us. I think he loves where he's at, which you can tell he puts in the effort. And some games where he gets fired up, like Stafford game, we got that stupid penalty. I mean, I don't think that was his fault. Stafford kicked him, and then we get a 15-yarder. Sue just in his face. But when he's fired up and he's making plays, he can set that tone for the defense. And he's just such a stout wall up there that he's been one of the reasons that teams have been running 70 yards a game on us over the last 2 or 3 years. And I was kind of between him and JPP on the outside, but I think there's just a better deal, especially with Tryon kind of stepping up as that outside guy. I'm not sure if JPP's price is going to be there for us to kind of balance out the price / the need. So
Yeah,
that's why I Sue.
And I like that, because you talked about with Sue and Vita, and you see, it seems like those two guys have this friendship and this relationship that almost makes them play better football, because they look like, for two big nasty guys, two strong nose tackles, they look like they're having the most fun in the world out there. And multiple times this year we saw Sue collapse the pocket like I haven't seen him do maybe since he was back in Detroit. And I agree with you. If we can bring back Sue, I think it's great, because again, we talk about the strength of our defense. It's been stopping the run. And as good as our linebackers are, it starts with how dominant our defensive line has been for the last 4 or 5 years. So I agree with you. I would love to see Sue come back. He wasn't in my top 5, mainly because of some age concerns for me. Being that interior lineman, but at the same time, I agree that I think he's an absolute cornerstone of that defensive line.
So that brings us to who do you got number 5 here? There's a lot of names still on the list, but
yes. So for me, this was tough because I think one guy is a bigger need for us, but the other guy excites me a little bit more. So I'm going to go with Lenny. I think, and I have a stipulation on this. So of course we don't know how much he's going to want and stuff like that. So I would love to have Lenny come back. I think whatever happened in Jacksonville, it just didn't work. He comes to Tampa Bay early on. It seems like he's not, fitting in a role. And Bruce Arians basically tells him like, you're in or you're out. And the rest is kind of history, right? You see playoff Lenny, you see Super Bowl Lenny. He kind of carries that momentum into this year. He has some injuries, troubles at the end of the year, but at the end of the day, like he's an explosive running back. He has good hands. He knows our system, and I think that's extremely important in our offense. A running back like that. At the same time, I'm not a fan of throwing a lot of money at running backs. It's just you see the best teams in the NFL. It's a running back by committee. You look at San Francisco, you look at the Rams, you look at these other teams who run the ball well or typically run the ball well. They have a couple different backs who do a couple different things. So I'm going to go with Lenny because I think he's a key piece, and I think he wants to be in Tampa Bay. I think he likes playing for Bruce Arians, that kind of coach who gives his guys some leash, but also gives them some tough love when they need to get the tough love. But I just think if his asking price is too much, I wouldn't mind the Bucs going in a different direction either, just because we have needs elsewhere. So if the price tag's too big, I can see us moving on.
Yeah, we're doing a lot of chalk today because I also have Lenny at number 5, and kind of in the same vein where it's based on the price tag. Like if he's asking for too much, then I think of Vaughn and possibly getting Rojo at a cheaper price after this year. That duo they can replace Lenny, I think, especially if Rojo looks like the 2019, 2020 version of himself. Kind of gets there. And I mean, Vaughn kind of showed out in that first playoff game and the last 2 games of the season. I mean, he was looking pretty good. He runs hard, and once he kind of got the flow of the game going again, his hands were back. Yeah. So there was definitely a big asterisk there. But I was between Lenny and Carlton. I mean, Carlton, he is our lockdown corner. He this year with some injury issues, he struggled a little bit, but 2019, 2020, he was a premier lockdown corner in the NFL who took away the best receivers on the other teams and a guy we could move around. And especially in our young secondary, he's kind of a veteran, or especially now he's a veteran guy, but I mean, he's better than Bunting. He's better than Dean, and just way more sure. So I was between him and Lenny, but again, Fournette, if we can get him at a good price, he is such a dynamic back. His hands, sneaky hands, which we didn't realize until last year. He's lined up as a wide receiver, catching pretty difficult passes. Yeah. And then he just play after play in big moments. He's been there. So definitely. And like you said, we're kind of
we kind of have the chalk with each other's picks here, because I had the same thing when it came down to it, I was splitting hairs between Carlton and Lenny. Like you said, Carlton is our best corner, period, in every facet. He's our best corner. So of course we want him back. I think we need him back. And I think he's going to be a top priority for us to bring him back. But at the same time, it's just, like we said, we're brought in by the lure of playoff Lenny and what he's able to do in the backfield. So it's going to be exciting to see how the Bucs kind of stack these guys up and prioritize what we need and how we want to fill those roles.
Yeah, and then I'll just going through this list a little more after our top 5. We got obviously JPP would be nice to get back. I mean, he's been pretty big for us the last 2 years. I mean, he's been huge. Little non-existent in the playoffs this year, but him and Shaq were both kind of iffy.
Yeah,
obviously Gronk's a mystery. I mean, no idea what
I think. And I think weirdly enough, for a team who you could argue has one of the deeper tight end rooms in the NFL, we might have one of the thinnest tight end rooms coming into this year now, because all of a sudden we have a guy like Gronk who might be looking at retirement as well. We have a guy like OJ who hasn't really played out to his potential since he's been in Tampa Bay. He's had some flashes early in his career. He's had some injury issues. He's had some drops issues. And then, of course, Gronk comes in and there's that consistency and that reliability with Gronk and Brate that we saw with Brady. And we never really saw OJ break into that.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see, because his upside, I think, is huge. And I think a lot of teams in the NFL are going to see that. At the same time, are the Bucs going to look at him and say, is this a guy that we want to give more time to after he's already been in our organization for 4 or 5 years now, and what's his production looked like? So I could see us potentially losing both those guys, unfortunately, just because I think Gronk might retire, and I think OJ might get a little bit more of an asking price elsewhere, with another team banking on that potential that we haven't been able to really see out of him in Tampa Bay.
Agreed. Golston's another guy who's been a pretty good surprise up the middle. I mean, he's definitely coming to his own from what he was before. We kind of got that stout D line. Sherman, not much.
That's the thing, and that's the thing. So although I think our top 5, 6, I think, are absolute heavy hitters, and we talk about it's a huge list here, of course, but there are definitely some pieces on this list that you know what I mean? I like a guy like a Sherman. I don't think he's going to be coming back. Even Giovanni Bernard, Steve McClendon, Stevie Mack. So there are pieces that I would just be surprised, because some of those pieces are guys that we brought in at the end of 2020 and in the offseason of 2021 or middle of 2021 to fill some injury roles, and they're more veteran guys. And now that we're in this, I think we're still going for that Super Bowl. We're in that window. I think we're also going to try to get a little bit younger this year. Bringing back all 22 was great, the experience, but the downside of that is you have a lot of older guys. That's not always sustainable throughout the season. So I could see us getting a little bit younger this offseason, and some of those older guys might not be coming back. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see how, Jason Light and BA kind of move those pieces to figure out how we bring that experience back, those crucial pieces back, but also, get some youth back in, because we do have a lot of veteran players, which is great, but there comes a time for all of them.
Definitely. I mean, this is going to be as exciting of an offseason as it's been, as we talked last week. A lot of guys, a lot of big names that are they worth the price right now? We don't know. And again, it's going to be dependent on who we get a quarterback to. I mean, if for some reason we have to go into more of a, not rebuilding, but we start a Trask where a guy we're not sure of, or do we get a guy like a Wilson or a Rodgers or a Carr who's like, okay, this is definitely a win now scenario. We need to bring back these veteran guys again on short-term deals, kind of load them up on the back half of their contract, like we kind of did this offseason.
Yep.
Who do you think we're going to franchise tag? That's another question that.
So that's actually something I haven't even thought about. I'm glad you brought that up.
Jeez.
Wow, that's interesting. Okay.
I don't think we're going Godwin 2 years in a row.
No.
I think it's either long term or nothing.
See, I think that could be a piece where we talked about, right, that top five, that top six. So
Yeah.
I think we were pretty set on those top 3, 4.
Yep.
But I think we talked about those bottom 2 or 3. Well, we talked about Lenny. I don't think they gave Lenny the franchise tag. I don't think he would play on the franchise tag. I think
Yeah.
he'd probably take he'd be vocal about that.
Yeah.
I think 2 guys who could fit the franchise tag really well are Carlton Davis and Alex Kappa.
Yeah.
2 guys who could probably prove a little bit more to us. 2 guys who also have been really, really good starters for us and produced a lot for us.
Yeah.
I think those 2 guys could be good pieces. What about you?
I agree. I could see it be a Carlton, or even, I mean, I could even see who was about to say. I could see Jensen, secure that line, get him in there. He's going to be a top paid guy going somewhere. He's going to be asking for top dollar, so might as well give him. It's average of the top 5 at the position.
Yeah,
I think so.
It's going to be interesting. That's a piece that I didn't even think about. So that just throws another interesting mix into everything.
All right, so now moving on. It's Super Bowl week, so we gotta definitely talk about a little bit of Super Bowl, the bets and stuff. So I think we talked a little bit last week, but so line right now, Rams 4.5. I think last week you were on the Rams, right? And
Yeah.
spread still on that.
Yeah, still on the Rams and the spread. I mean, I do think it's gonna be a close game. But I do think there are some pieces on that Rams defense and offense that's just going to be a little too much for the Bengals to handle.
Now, kind of going into a deeper route in the Super Bowl, you got any crazy prop bets you like? You look at any of the coin toss outcome, the national anthem yet?
So I haven't looked at the anthem yet, and one of the things I've been waiting for is that classic like leaked footage of someone like listening to the anthem being practiced from like the parking lot and hitting it with the timer. So I'm holding out on that one. I always like going heads. I know tails never fails. When I played and I went out on coin tosses, I always went heads. Now I'll tell you very honestly, I feel like I lost most of the time, but I go heads. So I would go heads in that prop.
I go tails. I went tails for 2 straight years. Every single coin toss I got the call. So I definitely put a little bit on tails. The national anthem. So I saw a video of the singer today, and I saw the over under was 95 seconds. I'm like, that is short. That is a quick national anthem. Like, there's no way that is going under. Found a video on YouTube where we're singing it at the White House, and it was 1:27. So that was flying.
Okay.
So now I'm like, it's the moment though, right? So it's a moment. She's gonna be holding on to notes probably a little longer, or she's
if she's a little jittery, the nerves get her a little going even faster. So I don't know where I'm going to fall on that, because I don't know. I don't have confidence either way. The one area that I do have confidence in, and I saw this prop earlier, who's going to be the first performer at the halftime show, and it is a star-studded cast. I think there's one person that it has to be. It's got to be Snoop, right? I mean, they're in Los Angeles. There's no way that they have Eminem come out first in LA, in Snoop City, right?
Well, so I can guarantee you which song they're going to go first. Which it's going to be Snoop, because they're going to go with Still Dre. It's going to be the first song they're going to come out with. Snoop and Dr. Dre, and that's my lock of the weekend. Still right. Dre as the first song.
It's got to be Dr. Dre and Snoop. I don't know who technically comes out first, but they're in Los Angeles.
Yeah,
it would be a crime to start out with anyone, both those 2 guys, when they're a part of the list of stars, a part of this halftime show.
Yeah, and then kind of looking at more of the game props, I think FanDuel or DraftKings had a boost on Cup anytime touchdown. It's like plus 120, which that would be a pretty nice steal.
Anytime that guy is getting plus odds to score a touchdown, I'm going to be looking at it very seriously, because the guy just finds the end zone, whether it's on a deep pass, whether it's on a run after catch. The guy is just unbelievable. Week in and week out, everyone knows he's unbelievable, and he still produces. So, So one of the things I want to ask you is we talked about the props a little bit. Another kind of non-football aspect of the Super Bowl, one of my favorite parts is the commercials. Let me ask you to close us off. What is your favorite commercial? I'm going to start off by saying Budweiser, Clydesdales with the golden retrievers in it. Can't be beaten. What's your favorite?
Jeez. I'm probably leaning with you. I haven't been too big of a fan of commercials the last couple of years, but like Doritos used to have some absolutely amazing commercials.
Right.
The snow globe one was one of the best, where they're just throwing it through the vending machines. But I don't know if you can beat the Clydesdales with the Dalmatian. That's America right there. That's
Or the one where
dogs.
The little kid puts the guy in the time machine and he shakes it on him like
Yeah, I think those two have been consistently good over the years. So
I agree.
All right. And that's another episode. Let's fire the cannons. Go Bucs.
Fire the cannons. Let's go.